Good day, everyone. My name is Adibo Kenechiko Franklin, and along with my fellow cohorts, Open Patrick, Madukazi Victory, and Olu Agbemi David, we are here to defend our project known as the Off-Dev Suite. Now, first of all, what is the Off-Dev Suite? The Off-Dev Suite is a modular Python-based framework designed to demonstrate both offensive and defensive cybersecurity operations in a controlled lab environment. It automates simultaneous attacks as well as also it testing vulnerabilities. It helps in monitoring systems in real time and provides automated responses to threats. It shows how detection, mitigation, and how detection and mitigation can work together in a seamless workflow. So first off, why of dev suits? What is the purpose of this project? So in today's rapidly evolving cybersecurity landscape, manual cybersecurity workflows are no longer sufficient. Rising cyber threats require speed, automation, and precision. Threats are constantly changing, and manual monitoring is too slow. Tools such as the off-dev suites can identify and respond to threats in real time, reducing the potential breaches. Its modular design allows for easy expansion, whether for new attack types or defensive strategies. Okay, so basically, this is the core structure. It is divided into three tiers. We have the core controller, we have the offensive module, and the defensive module. Now, the core controller is responsible for navigating throughout the various options which of dev suits would give you. So I'm just going to demonstrate this. As you can see, this is the of dev suite. This is the core controller. It's basically a menu section in which you can choose between the various options, whether they are offensive options or defensive options. The second section is now offensive modules. In the offensive modules, we have port scanners, vulnerability mapping, as well as SSH brute forcing. This is due to simulate cyber attacks, which would help in ensuring safety. So I'm going to start the presentation of how the off-dev suite works by taking the first two, which are the scan targets and map vulnerabilities. Okay, so option one is simply a port scanner. It helps us to identify the port, it helps us to identify the server or the target IP address of our targets. So I'm just going to get the IP address from the our targets. I'm using Metasploit table 2 as our targets. So look up in a few moments. Okay, thank you. All right, as you can see, I've already loaded in our IP address. Our IP address is 192.168.253.131. I'm not going to load it into the script, load it into the option. So, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. Now, as you can see, like what a normal port scanner does, it scans through all the various ports that are available and then displays it on our screen. So we have about 11 ports that are open, which would enable us to plan ahead in case we are hackers. If we are to be hackers, this allows us to plan ahead and know what to do to reach through these services that are open. Now I'm going to go into the coding section so that I can show you what goes within our port scanner. Okay, so basically, this code is divided into two sections. Those two sections consist of the scan port section as well as the scan target section. These are functions in which we use in getting our ports, our open ports from the IP address. Through the use of the module sockets, we are able to connect to the network and gain our ports and get our ports, whether open or closed. Now, the threadful executor is a module used to enable us to utilize the threads of our CPU so that we can, let's say, simultaneously count a huge number of ports at a time, saving time and energy. While this last line, it is just a line of code used to import a function from another Python file. It's called the log file, which is used to basically keep track of what has been going on throughout the use of the dev suits. That will be explained from that will be explained by one of our course. But now I'm just going to run through what each function does. This function is used to scan the ports scan the IP address, the target IP address for available ports which are open using the socket command, the set timers command, as well as the s.connect command, which enables us to get the ports which are open. If the ports that are scanned through are not open, it won't print out anything. But if they are scanned and they are seen to be open, to print out this, which is how you can see our outputs. Because if ports are open, it's printing us only this. It's not giving us any ports that are closed. It's only giving us the ports that are open. As for this particular function, it is responsible for enabling us to scan through the various ports within a certain range. Now, in cybersecurity or worldwide, there are three types of services. Let me call it like that. But we're going to focus on one, which is the open services, the ones that are available to us all around, such as the HTML, such as the HTTP, sorry, the SSH, the STMP, and so on. This particular function enables us to scan from the ranges in which these ports occur and enables us to get our answers within little time through the use of the module, the thread pool executor. That is how we're able to get our answers. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the second one, which is mapping vulnerabilities. Now, what this simply does is that we first off impute the service in which we want to look at for vulnerabilities. And then it gives us a list of vulnerability documentations in which we can look into, if we were to be hackers, in which we can look into and do our research on and know how we can exploit them. Okay, now we're going to look at how this code works behind the scenes. Okay. Okay, so this is the code for the vulnerability mapper. As you can see, it uses the module JSON, which is used to enable us to read basically read JSON files, which would be useful because all the vulnerabilities that are within a service, they are stored there, as you can see. Look at this is the JSON file we're currently in. This is where all the vulnerabilities are stored for each service. The JSON module enables us to enables the Python script to interact with the JSON file. Yeah. Now moving on. This this code consists of one main function, which is to enable us to scan through the JSON file and then look through each service and get the vulnerability in which belongs to the service in which the user had imputed. That is basically what this code does. With the use of the JSON.load file, it enables the JSON file that was mentioned, JSON file that was added to be converted into a Python dictionary so that the Python file can easily access it and get what we need in order to initiate some attacks. And with that, I'm done with my part. I'm handing it over to the next person. Thank you. Bro, we can't hear you. Your mic is off.
Sorry for that. Um, I'll be taking the SSH brute force attack. It is part of the module um, under the offensive module. So what this simply does is it attempts the force attack. It's the one that performs the real offensive attack. So after the port scanning, after mapping the vulnerability, this SSH attack is what exploits the weakness of the system itself. So I'll be demonstrating that here. The demonstrating that here now. So we have our SSH module, and this is the code behind the module. So firstly, we imported our paramedical module, which helps us to work with SSH, and we imported necessary files part of this project. So from logger import log event. So what this simply does is it imports the function log event from this logger module. And this IDS, what it does is it's also a module under this project, and we need the function detect attack in order to work with our SSH. So we created the function, we named the function and put our parameters in it. And in this case, we hard code our password in this program. It can also be outside the program in a file, but in this case, we make sure it's part of the program. So also we put this in a loop so that for each of the password in this place, it will attempt to brute force into the target system. So this for loop, what it does is it helps this program to each password in this place, the admin, the 1234, the root, and if there are more, what it does is it takes each of them and attempts to break in using this password in the target system. And also this SSH parameter SSH client, what it does is it's the one that helps us to start the connections, just like you are opening an app. So the next one on the line is what helps us is for policy control. Whether when you log in into a system, it asks you whether whether you trust the connection or not. So this helps us to handle that automatically. And this is what creates the connection itself. So for the target system, whether the IP, the username, it takes the password and attempts each of these password to breaking into the system. And the timeout assigned for each tries is 3 seconds. So it will not go beyond 3 seconds before it tries the next password. So, and also we used our try to handle errors so that the system will not crash. Whenever there is an error detected, it will still continue. So, and we also did the necessary logins here. So it will log every activities in this place. And let me demonstrate it here for us. Let's run it and see what it gives to us. So this is the main, the controllers, as we have been told, this is the controller. So now I will choose the option 3, which is the SSH brute force. So we are asked to input our target IP. In this case, I'll put my Metasploit IP 192.168. So so here is starting the brute force attempt. So it has tried the first password admin, but it failed. It tried the second, it failed. It tried a third, it failed. The reason is because it has not gotten the real password which could attempt to break in into this target IP. So that's what this is all about. So once there is a password compatible that could penetrate into the system, then it prints out sources. Then you are able to break in into the system. So after each attempt, there is a count. The first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. In this case, the maximum or the threshold set for this is 3. So any attempt greater than 3, it automatically blocks it, and that will be treated in details when I hand over to my next colleague. So that's all for SSH now. What it simply does is it tries to penetrate into this target system or the system of interest, and it's whether this password is internal, I mean the code, or whether it is outside in a file. What it does is it takes each password and attempts to brute force into the system, to break into the system. So in case you are, this is necessary for penetration testing, like for hackers, in order to know how attacks work. So this is why this is necessary in this case. So I'll be handing over to the next person who will take us through the next module.
Okay, so I'll be taking over the next module, which is known as the defensive module. So we're going to start with the IDS, the intrusion detection system. This flags suspicious patterns and anomalies. So this means that in our engine, the IDS detector.py is a stateful engine, meaning that it doesn't just look at one connection, it remembers the complete history of that entire connection. We use a Python dictionary to track the attempts, which a single failed login could be an error, which means they might have forgotten the password to the account or the server they are trying to enter. So, however, multiple rapid failures from one IP suggest someone is trying to force their way into the server. They're trying to brute force their way into the server. So I'm going to demonstrate such activities in my so we're going to select for the detected IDS. So for the IP, I'm going to use my metasploitable 2 IP address, which is 192.168.17.131. Suspicious attempt. They failed to log in once. So we'll try it again. 192.168.171. As as you can see, it has flagged it twice now. It has failed to log in twice. The system has taken note of it now since it has failed to enter the server twice. So from that, we're going to enter into the auto IP blocking. So this it applies immediate countermeasures against hostile sources, which means that trying to force your way into the server is going to lead to the IP address being noted and being watched by the server more carefully, which means that if you keep trying to force your way into the server, it's going to eventually block the IP address. So we're going to showcase that right here. So this is the third attempt, 192.168.117.131. Okay, I made a mistake the last time in the typing. Ah, shit. Okay, suspicious attempt 3. So if I do it for the fourth time, it's going to be flagged and blocked. 92.168.7.13. As you can see, the brute force has been detected. and it has been blocked. So the system automatically shifts from watching to acting on the IP address. As you see on the screen, the auto block module has engaged. The message simulated firewall rule applied confirms that the attacker is now isolated. All of this happens within a millisecond or without needing to intervene at all. So with that, we're going to go into the last one, which is log monitoring, which tracks the events for rapid triage and or validation. So our logger.py module ensures a permanent forensic trail. This is essential for governance, risk, and the compliance. So if a regulator asks why an IP was blocked, so we can give a time-stamped proof and evidence as to how and why it got blocked. So in this case, it got blocked and isolated because it was trying to brute force its way into the server without proper ID and verification. So now I'm going to pass it on to my next cohort.
Sorry, can you guys see my screen? So I'll be taking the auto IP blocking, which simply means that applied applied immediate countermeasures against hostile cells. Defensive action are designed to be fast, visible, and repeatable, which simply means that when someone like an attacker or hacker tries to break into your system, for example, guessing password or brute forcing or using dictionary attack, it spots it immediately and gives a warning to you that, oh, someone is trying to break in or an attacker is trying to break into your system. That's what the auto block attack does. So I'll be demonstrating this on my work environment. So this I'll be using my Metasploit IP address, which is 192.168.135.255. You can see that it just immediately block the IP address of the attacker trying to log into the system or trying to hack into the system. That's what the auto block attacker does. It just give warning that an hacker or an attacker is trying to enter into your system or trying to brute force the SSH. So what the auto block attack does is that it just gives warning to it, and if the attacker keeps insisting to log into your system more than 3 times, it automatically blocks the attacker from entering into your system. And this, I'm trying to bring up the code for this. 1 second, please. So this is the code for it. This is the from logger to import logger. That is the login for the auto block. And we also use loop for here. And this message one blocking IP, which is where you put the IP address that you want to block, and the message that you get after you get to block the IP address. Wait, hold on 1 second. So that's all what the auto block attack does. It blocks the attacker from getting into your system. I also give warning that the an attacker is trying to enter into your system. Basically, it's just a function created to block attacker IP address from attempting brute forcing or SSH. It gives warning every time there's an attempt to block or break into the SSH, then eventually blows the IP address when the attackers try to enter into your system more than 3 times. That's what the auto block attack does. And in real world example, like in cybersecurity industry, how the auto block attack helps is it helps in investigation, helps in reporting logs, and also helps in suspicious activities. I think this is where I'll be stopping for now, and I'm going to pass it to my colleague to continue for where I stop.
Module. So what this module does is it simply tracks activities across each modules. So it is very necessary, especially in an organization, in order to track whatever activities that is going on in the system, for threat detection and monitoring system activities and so on. So I'll be demonstrating I'll be taking us through the codes, like the codes behind the module, and I will demonstrate how it works in this project. So okay, so let me take us through the code first. So, oh, sorry. So the name for this module is logger.py, and what we simply did here is we created a function and assigned the parameter message into it, and using the with open function, what we did here is we created a file called activity.log, and using the a, this a means append. What it simply does is it writes each activities into this activity.log file. So we use this a. You can also use write, but what write does is it clears whatever is inside the file before it starts writing. But in this case, we don't need it to clear anything from it, because we need informations, everything that has happened across the system. So we use this append to add every activity into the activity.log file. So also, I'll be taking the clear log function also. And what this clear log simply does is, still using this with open, we write into the activity.log file. So whenever the user, whenever this function is called, so what it does is it clears whatever information or data that is stored in this activity.log, because what write does is, first of all, it enters into the file and it checks if there are any contents in the files and wipe them off before it starts writing. But in this case, we told it to pass. What this pass simply means is it should skip, it should do nothing in the system. If you don't put this pass, the system will crash. It will crash because you can't leave it empty like that. That's why the pass is necessary in this case. So what it does is it just opens the file, clears it, and does nothing. So I will also show us the module, how it works in the main.py. So yeah, what we simply did here is, so in order for us to view the logs, the previous one is to write into the file. Now, in order to view the logs, what we did here is we used try to handle error in case if there are any errors. So using the with open, we input our file name, which is the activity.log, and using the read command, what it does is it read every information in each line. So it prints out the information for us. Also, this clear.log is the same thing as we have explained earlier. It enters into the file, clears it, and does nothing. So let's demonstrate it here. So yeah, let's view our log. See, you can see the amount of information in this file. So let's clear the logs now, option 7, and let's go back to our option 6. Have you seen that the file, the activities in the file has been cleared? So in one word, why this is necessary is because in an organization, there needs to be a way to track activities. There needs a way to troubleshoot system in case there are anything gone wrong with the system. So what we do is we use the activity log to track whatever event that has happened in the system, to troubleshoot, to find threads, and much more. That is why this log is very necessary in this module. Thank you very much. I'll be handing over to the next person who will summarize everything for us.
Okay, with all things said and done, we've come to the end of the presentation. We've looked at how our project, the updev suite, works in handling penetration testing, offensive activities as well as defensive activities in cybersecurity. And we hope that with all said and done, this is a tool that will help in bettering the lives of many other organizations. With the tool only being able to exercise ethical considerations, it will prove helping towards those who are new to cybersecurity and those who would want to upgrade in their skill sets. Thank you.